Omega Alpha, your source for effective supplements through science since 1992, including Regenerec, Biotic 8 Plus, Hemex, Equine Liver Flush, Healthy Horse, Testos Boost, Minerac, Equine Anti-Flam, and many more. Backstretch Buzz at the Jug is brought to you by Omega Alpha. In this special segment, USTA Social Media Coordinator Wendy Ross discusses the rich history of the Jug with the voice of the Jug, Hall of Famer Roger Huston, who has called the race for more than 50 years.
Hello, everyone. Wendy Ross for the USTA and Harness Racing Fan Zone. Joining me is one of the famous faces, but most of all, voices in the sport of harness racing, the legendary one and only Roger Huston. Roger, thank you so much for being with us here today. We're going to take a trip down memory lane as it's September, and you know what that means. What does that mean, Roger? Tell us.
It actually means that even the day after, I start thinking about the Jug a year in advance, and it's going to be different this year. But the 24th, the 75th Little Brown Jug, it's coming up and getting closer by the day.
With it being that 75th anniversary, we wanted to take a little time and do something a little special this year, and take us some time and talk about some memories that you've lived through, as this is going to be your 53rd Little Brown Jug. How are you feeling? 53rd, that's no big deal, right?
It is a big deal in a way. When I stop and think that a person has to be so old to have heard anybody else call the Jug, that really puts an age on it. I mean, you've got to be 57 to 60 years of age even to remember my first Little Brown Jug. So there's a lot of people that have heard the Jug and been at the Jug that have never heard anybody else, and that's when it really gives you goosebumps.
Well, speaking of goosebumps, over the years, the Jug has certainly produced some of the greatest races of all time for those 3-year-old pacing colts and geldings. But tell us maybe just a couple that stand out to you. If you had to name one or two, or maybe three, we'll give you three if you need it, that are special to you, and some of the horses and maybe the drivers that made it special that year.
Well, the wildest thing is, these are my own personal feelings. It doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's going to agree with me that these are the greatest Jug races of all. But I think I can start with one that the vast majority are going to agree with me, and that's Wiggle-It, Jiggle-It.
That's my favorite, too.
I said as soon as it's over, it was the greatest harness race ever in harness racing, regardless of the size of track, and I still believe that today. That race had everything going into it, during it, after it, you name it. Sam McGee, he agreed with me because that was the first words out of his mouth. He says, that's the greatest race I've ever seen, and everything. And that's saying a lot coming from Sam with all the races he's announced at the Meadowlands. So that one race had such a storyline to it, and the race developed in a story fashion. The battle changed into a war, and just everything about it was just super. I mean, Wiggle-It was beat at the top of the stretch, no question. Lost for Words was opening up, and somehow Montrell Tig and Wiggle-It, Jiggle-It fought back and got up in the final stride to win it. It was close, but it was, to the naked eye, you could see that it was Wiggle-It, Jiggle-It.
I agree with you, Roger. I think that was my second year on the broadcast and standing next to Sam in the booth after hearing your reaction, after calling the race, and Sam and I remember him saying that to me, that it was the greatest race that he has seen. So yes, special memory for the Wiggle-It, Jiggle-It one. So I agree. That's my favorite one as well. Where do you go? Which one do you put in the second spot?
Well, this goes to two personal reasons. Southwind Ozzie. He won the Adios, comes right back, wins the Little Brown Jug. So every race that I called with Southwind Ozzie, he was a winner. So he stands out in my mind over the years. And I pointed that out in the winner circle. But the one that is really wild was Big Bad John. I think I announced 9 races of Big Bad John in his racing career, and he won all 9 races. So Big Bad John and I were undefeated. We win the jug, and my good friends Ed Tell and Susie, great friends to have in the winner's circle as well. And Big Bad John was a highlight.
I'm sure you tell of people that you've met throughout the years at the jug, but is there any other people that really stand out that have touched your heart along the way that make it such a memorable event?
Life Sign, I got to mention that. And the thing that I remember most about Life Sign was not the race itself. I remember the race, don't get me wrong, but the moment in the winner's circle. Here you have the driver that has been #1 in harness racing for so many years, and even after his retirement, John Campbell. When I went to him to interview him in the winner's circle, believe me when I tell him, this man was shaking like a leaf in a tornado. He was just shaking like you wouldn't believe. And I think the first question I asked him or something, and his reply was, that is the worst drive that I've ever made in harness racing, because I think he was on the pylons all of maybe 7 to 10 seconds. Other than that, he was hung every step of the mile. I got Adriano Sorella. Here I did it again. I called him Adriana throughout the winner's circle, and he never let that down. He says, I'm a man, you know, and all that stuff. So he teases me about it even today. So there's many great moments, and then there's some that I wish I could take back.
Well, you know, live TV, Roger, as they say, is probably one of the toughest things to do. So, you know, all things considered, I'm sure it was fine. Now, a couple more questions. This year, there's going to be no fans at the track, you know, due to the COVID and the things that have changed. How do you feel that it will affect things as far as the vibe of the race and everything? Do you think it's going to change quite a bit?
It's going to be totally different. I mean, at Delaware, I can get the attention of a crowd of 40 to 45,000 people by your attention, please. And it gets a little husher. And the second time I say, your attention, please. And by the third time, you can hear a pin drop at Delaware County Fairgrounds with 45,000 people. This year, I won't have to say your attention, please, because you could hear a pin drop all the time. That's going to be different. I've announced a lot of races in my lifetime where there's been very few spectators. A lot of the county fairs and racetracks that I've called at, you know how attendance has dropped over the years. So in that respect, it will make it kind of normal. That's not going to bother me. But deep down in my heart or in my mind, I'm going to miss those 45,000 people, one and all. Many of them, they know me, and I speak to them all the time, and that's going to be missing from Delaware, that chance to associate with the fans live and in person and answer their questions. That won't be able to be replaced. That'll be missed.
You know, with the folks not able to be on track, we were hoping that our simulcast product and the race calling I'm sure a lot of people will be tuning in. So, you know, it'll still be there, and I'm sure you'll still be giving those race calls your all.
I mean, I'll probably wake up in the middle of the night, Wednesday night, and look out the window to see if it's raining, whether or not the track's going to be lightning fast. And so as much as we can, it'll be normal for me, but it won't be normal for the fans. But they have various platforms that they can pick up the races. The OHHA is going to be Facebook Live all 5 days for the races. We've got our great simulcast show. It's going to be even more important this year because all of the handle derived is going to have to come off the simulcast show. And so we're working on that to be a #1 broadcast.
Thank you so much, Roger, and we'll look forward to hearing from you soon.
Well, thank you, Wendy, and I'll see you just in a matter of days at Delaware, Ohio. And it might not be for the fans, but Wendy, you will be there.
Yes, we certainly will, Roger. Thank you.